Hey guys, I think we're live here. This is Chris and
Edmond Sandor.
We were just walking across the parking lot to our other Wi-Fi cafe location, and
This is the surprise for the day.
it's we just found out that Bray Wyatt
And Terry Funk both passed.
passed away. We knew about Terry this morning.
Yeah, he died of old age.
And then the reports coming out right now are that Wyndham passed away of liver failure. And we knew he would, like everyone in
I
wrestling.
knew he had like an illness,
an injury
early
that he
this
was
year.
recovering from. And so that's just a kick in the balls. And, one of the things that really brings it out in someone that you're watching, whether it's like a heel, a villain, or a baby face, or a superhero, is the way that they, like, when I was Edmond's age, I was in the era where we thought, like, I was a little bit younger than him. We thought the characters were real, right? And then as I got older, I think I was in middle school, and the black kids in the neighborhood thought WCW was real and WWF at the time was fake. And then there's the curtain call and all that other nonsense, and now we know what it's like, and like the whole idea of building up that character, no matter who they are, is just like astonishing. I mean, you go through like, okay, well, what kind of character am I going to make? And they probably bounced it off Vince, or it could have been Vince's idea, or whichever way it is. And he's like, yeah, I could pull that off. Yeah, let's do this. And it becomes a whole different vibe, a whole different kind of just incarnation that you wouldn't even expect. I mean, it's like, Mark playing the Undertaker, and then Mick playing Mankind, and even his Dude Love characterization, and then you see, like, back in WCW how Goldberg, and I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm just, kind of putting words together here. And even like the Hulkamania era, and then the Ultimate Warrior era. I was a big Jim Hellwig fan, and then, like, you see, like, even the personalities of, like, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and Tony Schiavone's on TV personality, and then you'll have like Jim Cornette. I mean, even to this day, like Edmond, who do we listen to and who do we fall asleep to?
Yeah, Jim and Brian.
Yeah, Jim and Brian. And that's what got us inspired to start this podcast, was Jim and Brian, and you almost have this personal connection with a lot of these characters, and these guys grow, and now the females, like the female wrestlers. I mean, someone across the table from me here.
Don't even try to do anything. I'm not in the mood for it.
Has
Don't even try to say the name.
No, I won't say the names, but we have like a personal connection with some of the female characters as well, and then in Edmond's case, it goes beyond the fascination. It says, well, hey, I'm going to be working with these people, you know, I mean, these are like, we didn't know Wyndham, like Bray Wyatt, like personally or anything. Brody was at the one place we were at out west, and was Steve Austin, and before the pandemic, and then all of a sudden, Brody's gone, and that just like, and then Evil Uno working with Brody's son. That was cool as hell.
That was the smart move.
And this isn't like one promotion over another. I mean, when you lose someone like you lose any of these guys, it just kicks you right in the balls. And if you hear the people in the background, we're in a Wi-Fi cafe. There is like, we were going to do this outside at the car, but there are like bugs everywhere. It must be that season.
I don't know. They'll be gone by tonight. So.
Yeah, and so
I had to get a lot of college work done today, so I sound like I'm very tired.
we've been nads deep in a bunch of projects, and if you feel so inclined, we have a Buy Me a Coffee link, and that goes to Edmond. That doesn't go to me.
Yeah, it goes
that just goes to him to pay his phone bill and his storage.
My bills, and then just to get some food for me, and eventually our new apartment.
Yeah. So, we grow up with these guys and girls that have these characters that we just have a personal connection to. And I think of that as I've gotten older, except for when my PTSD kicks in. I keep getting like spam notifications on my Instagram. But we have these characters that we look up to, and it was I want to say it's 2011 when Jim Hellwig passed away, and I didn't even know he was dead.
2014.
Might have been 2014. Yeah.
Macho Man passed.
Yeah,
in 2010.
Yeah, that's right. Because Randy passed away in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to Mark from up in Dexter, stayed up north when we found out about Randy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working on a different project at the time, and it was a different time in my life where I really wasn't following wrestling because I had just been like crazy busy on schoolwork and college work and trying to fit the stupid family narrative, and I'm trying to keep the F-bombs to a minimum here. And then it just, you see how fucking fragile, there's one F-bomb, how fragile, all that can be taken away from you. Your superhero, even the villain, was taken away from you. And in Bray's case, man, he had like I think he said he didn't even envision like the fireflies even happening. That just happened to be like people just turned on their smartphone lights.
Yeah.
And then that turned into the fireflies.
I have experienced that outside of wrestling.
Yeah. And it's like, wow. The whole character just becomes this new incarnation that just evolves. And when I was younger, I always liked the darker stuff myself. And being a black metal musician and having the corpse paint and the stage blood and all that stuff, I was never really like a Gangrel fan or anything like that. I kind of got out of wrestling for a minute there because I was in a dark place in my life right around 2001. And then, like I said, I got back into it when I think it was right around 2005 2002, Edmond, Uncle Chad, he had an extra ticket for the car show.
Oh yeah, right.
And Jay and Shaggy were there from the same clown posse.
Yeah.
With what's the dude's name that does all the toilet matches? Eddie Kingston.
Oh yeah.
And
well, he doesn't that.
He doesn't do that many of them now.
Yeah, no.
And like the ECW guys were there. We didn't see Paul Heyman there, but like a lot of the ECW guys were there. Taz was there. You know, like when he was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about the Bam Bam Bigelow match where they fell through the ring. And then we went to an ECW show at Patel Hall, and that was just fucking crazy. I mean, like, you know, doing the 450 off the balcony through like 3 tables.
Yeah, they
and all
gotta
that.
take it easy with that nowadays.
Right. And then you know, Uncle Chad moved out west after that, and then you know, I just fell out of wrestling for a minute there, and then you know, I started watching like the current, like, you know, I had a forensics degree, but I was poor, you know, right after graduation. And, you know, my wife was just barely making the bills. And of course, you know, here I am, you know, backstory, just briefly, brackets control, you know, I was in that family situation where I was just the genetic piece of shit to everyone else in my wife's family, except for the people in Tennessee and Arizona. And all he did was like bitch and complain. And so we were at Christmas one year, and I just graduated with my forensics degree, and I was working as a bouncer at this douche and hoe bar in the arena district, and I was just like, man, if I don't get out of this, I'm just gonna punch someone. You know, I said something. It was like I was gonna Goldberg spear someone and jackknife them. And so we go to Christmas, and all my father-in-law can do is like, well, you need to get done. You need to get, you know, your equity up, you know, in the house. You need to do this. You need to just screaming at me, telling me how fucked up I am as a person because I don't have all this shit in order or already done yet, and I just fucking graduated. And you know, my father-in-law was he barely had money for like Christmas that year, you know, and he's telling me how fucked up my life is, right? And so I just go in the basement at Christmas, you know, at Uncle Joe's, put on I put on my headphones, and then I was like, well, let me put on my laptop. So I had this like i5 laptop, and I downloaded off a turret site a episode of like, I think it was like what's the thing they do at Thanksgiving? What's the Thanksgiving tradition? Survivor Series.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, man, this actually ain't too bad.
Sure.
And I think it had John Cena and The Rock in it.
I don't think Dwayne was in there.
Or it might have been like a preview of The Rock or something like that.
I don't even know.
But, you know, I was like, man, this is pretty tight, you know? And then when Edmond, he was, we started watching, we turned on wrestling because we couldn't go to this one like thing that Mama wanted to go to.
I don't even remember what.
Yeah, and so we were like, well, crap, our plans are messed up, so we had one of those pizzas we just threw in the oven.
Yeah,
You know,
like the
one-
DiGiorno.
Yeah.
Yeah, take and bake pizzas. Those are good.
Yeah, the
I
ones,
love
and
those.
she would put it on that stone pizza.
Yeah,
circle
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
you know? And
I miss those. They're really expensive.
yeah, we have it in our storage unit. The stone thing, the pizza stone.
Yeah, like the base thing that you put on. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And
you know what I'm talking about.
and I was like, hey Edna, why don't we watch wrestling? You know,
I
because it
was
happened.
like,
And
okay,
and
alright.
you thought the characters were real.
I still think a few characters.
There's still a
are-
few of them that we think are real.
I already know a few stars that
Yeah.
are.
And you were like, hey Dad, are they really hitting each other? Or is like,
It's something about.
and it's like, oh, it's just what's called a work, you know.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you know, they're making it look real. You know,
Sure.
they're acting, but they're really falling down. They're taking the bumps and all that
Yeah,
other
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And so Bailey comes on and really catches your attention.
Well,
And I'm like, fuck, that's the girl I saw at the Arnold, you know?
yeah.
And
that's
'cause we were I was an EMT at the Arnold.
Yeah, right. I was
Right
gonna
before
say
that. And Bailey came out and wrestled like 3 times at the NXT, ring. And and then it became a family tradition for us. Mama was, when she didn't have to work late, would watch wrestling with us. We did a couple live events,
Yeah.
We went to Raw and SmackDown, and then
I think I'm trying to remember.
you had a school assignment due that Mama was helping you with because it had to do it. She had to graphically design something for you.
Okay.
And so I went to Money in the Bank with Uncle Chad because he was back from
yeah.
Colorado by
Right.
then. And then we started, you had left your computer screen up and it had like the huge playlist of like wrestling episodes on it.
I don't know. I don't remember.
It was
that.
the real big Macs that we had, the big like Apple machine that we had.
My current Mac that I have.
Yeah, it was the one before that one.
Oh, but that thing was good.
Yeah, and it was just like, Edmond started getting into the characters.
Oh, you had to look up a few on YouTube and
Yeah,
Google.
and then Googling, Edmond went through the phase. You went through the phase of like Googling up characters to see what their real names were.
Yeah, right. I've seen
know.
that. Yeah.
And it became one of
Mostly
those.
they all have like really long names. and,
Some of
like,
them do. And we were on a trip to Tennessee for a convention, and it was right after the Tennessee lockdown finished.
yeah,
And we're coming back up, and we're thinking, well, what do we listen to? You can only listen to so much, like Hail Satan, Baptism by Fire, stuff. So
Before I started the music collection.
yeah, so we were like, well, let's put on this Jim and Brian podcast. This sounds interesting. And so we're laughing our asses off
Well.
just listening to that because it was the episode where
Sometimes he kind of has adult humor.
he's like, hey, you know what that sounds like? That sounds like the sound my stomach made after a late night run to Taco Bell
I
before the
get my
pandemic.
Mexicana dinner at El Vaquero.
Right.
Enough said.
At least you can get the buckets of queso. So,
That I take it easy on.
right.
Hey, no one has ever heard of guacamole but me.
Yeah. And so
You can only find it at Chipotle.
we had Jim and Brian are just like, I know they don't know us personally, but they're like family to us, and they've been a big inspiration for us as a team, and Edmund and I as a family, we're going on 11 months homeless right now.
I think 11 months is going to be the max. So I can picture us moving into the apartment.
And Edmund's a pro wrestler in training right now. He's on a wrestling scholarship to Full Sail University. And I'm an AI, I'm helping him with his AI stuff. I'm working with some AI stuff later on. I just actually applied for a remote job for Google. That's kind of off topic.
He's got other stuff.
Yeah, and, when you follow your passion and you'll be like, hey, I could be like a Bray Wyatt character or have that kind of pulse or that vibe with the crowd. And, Edmund is going to be a luchador and he's going to have that pull with because two of his trainers are Asian. So he'll have an Asian, Japanese, Asian culture.
I'm a Japanese culture guy.
Following, and then being a luchador, he'll have
on occasion some European culture as well.
Yeah. And so he's going to have this big pull with a big fan base, and he's he'll bounce ideas off of me, and say, hey, what do you think about this in my storyline?
I already have a few ideas out.
Right. And you go through life saying, hey, I can be this next icon if I just keep at it and I don't quit. And there's been times in my life where I just wanted to give up. After Edmund's mother passed away, 5 years already, Jesus. And I remember an uncle texting me saying, hey, you're not dead yet. Like,
no.
And I'm like, hey, why don't you go work on your next DUI? And he's like, are you guys really going to that convention? Or he's like, is Edmund really going to be a wrestler? He's going to Texas for the summer? I was like, yeah.
I don't have to prove anything.
And it wasn't that you came up with the idea. We came up with the idea of, hey, let's do this for real. Edmund, you wanted to be after your mom died. You were like, hey, what did you tell me you wanted to do?
Become a professional wrestler and work with robots.
Right. And we just bingo, that's what we're doing, right? And I'll do a couple of projects here and there. I could have got a few things done sooner, but sometimes it takes time, and if you don't quit, and the rest of the world wants you to quit and give up, and then we find out that our family wanted us to quit and give up and just be a bunch of be careful how I'm saying this, just be a bunch of cowards to the rest of the world and follow a family narrative that was going to throw us overboard anyway. And our family, my wife's family sees us as just genetic trash who didn't fall in line, who didn't laugh at the right time, who didn't say the right jokes, who didn't step in lockstep in everything that my wife's family wanted us to do. And so we got kicked out of the family, and they only used Edmund for what they needed him for. Edmund, what did you have to do for your aunt?
Clean up the whole house, just for a landlord to sell it to a private
equity firm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you were only up there to clean up her hoarder's house.
I've been there before, and it was the exact same 10 years.
10 years later. Yeah.
Later.
And then when the school was trying to get a hold of you, then your aunt thought, like, oh, well, you're Edmund, you're.
After, like, even I was thinking of it, yeah, like, before the Thanksgiving, this is just crap. I'm packing up my bags and I'm moving out.
Yeah, and like we get a phone call from Edmund's aunt, and she's like, I don't know what you're up to, but it's time for you to take Edmund. I'm throwing him out on the street.
If she really did that, it would have been game on.
And so I talked her into meeting us halfway, and I had to drive like 9/10 of the way up there.
I even tried telling her that, even if it was at like a rest area,
Right. And
or like a travel arena, like, yeah.
And I even called your grandmother, and I'm like,
I even tried talking to her too.
I'm like, it's a week before Thanksgiving. I don't mind if he stays with you for a month.
I don't give up.
And his grandmother wanted nothing to do with it. And
Screw this family.
And it was just like, wow. Like, you can't follow a fucking dream and then make it happen. And all this time, Edmund's aunt is telling Edmund, oh, well, you need to think realistically. And by the way, you can't talk to anyone. And what do narcissists do? They keep you from talking to other people, right? You gotta, like, obey, consume, and comply with those people. You can't be creative. And God forbid you even look something up and how something works on Google or something. And so, like, Edmund and I got kicked out of the family, and I was just that piece of shit to them that was just in the way, right? Because they wanted Mama to marry some like Ivy League person, but what Ivy League person is going to put up with a family treating someone like that, right? And so Edmund got kicked out on the street, and they sold you a lemon. Your executor got you a lemon car.
Yeah.
And so we've been living in a dead car.
We're currently getting a new one. I have one.
Well, we have one picked out. We don't have the money for it yet. But
until sometime.
But yeah, enough about us. Let's go back to the creative narrative, that Bray had, and he made the Wyatt family, and we first thought it was going to be like a Hills Have Eyes type of thing, like a Rob Zombie type of thing.
I thought it was like real, like
yeah, like these real like deliverance people like crack, or something. Mm-hmm. And because Brody and then I don't even know if I'm saying his name correctly. His real name. I don't think his real name is Luke Harper, is it?
No, it's Brody.
Brody, and then he was the guy with the red hair. Rowan. Eric?
Yeah, Eric Redbeard.
Yeah.
I think. I don't...
see what dude's real name is.
I really don't know.
Eric Rowan. Okay. Here he is. Joseph Rudd.
Joseph.
Yeah. So, it's like, I literally just uploaded something to Instagram, and Mark Marrow had inspired me to do that. And he was just talking the other day, life is so short, And I thought Melissa, Edmund's mother, would be around forever, and because we were talking about, hey, let's do the bucket list early. Let's go to Brazzers as a family, as a couple. And like, okay. So we had called a Brazzers girl that we knew, like personally, to the sheer horror of Edmund's uncle. One time when they called, and then like she's like, yeah, we can get you hooked up with Brazzers, at ABN. That's no problem. And I was supposed to take someone with me, but everyone kept chickening out. And one person, she couldn't make it because she got sick,
Yeah.
And
still with her.
and
Right.
damn flies all over the place. And so I ended up giving my extra VIP God level ticket to Elizabeth's Dragons, who goes under the name Alora Jensen. And I don't think she uses that name anymore. I'm just saying at the time that was what her stage name was. And then it was just like remember when we went to dinner with all the girls?
Oh, yeah.
And Edmond, sit just a little closer, okay? I know we're all grossed out here right now. I'll just push the machine towards you.
Thanks
There we
very
go.
much.
All right. So, we ended up, we didn't have a sitter, so I took Edmund with me to Brazzers, and he was just upstairs, except for like a few times. We got invited to dinner, and Brazzers was like this, very similar to like the wrestlers, because some of them are stage names, right?
Yeah.
And a little bit more colorful, obviously. But when you sit down and meet the real person, you see how just truly, with few exceptions, how just generally likable they are, right? And like no one said anything obscene to you or anything like that. You were sitting right next to Riley Reed,
Yeah.
and the girl with the tattoos on her back, and
Mostly.
and then Bridget B was right next to you,
Yeah.
and
Kind of remember that.
yeah, she was the tall Latino girl in the white dress. Yeah,
They all wore like the same like colors.
Riley had a red dress on, and then Bridget and a lot of them had like these white dresses on.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like a tradition or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then, like when I went to VIP, I was actually I was asked to help out at VIP, and I was like, yeah, sure, I can help you out. And everyone was just totally cool. I mean, everyone thought I was like real life friends with like the Brazzers girls, and then I became friends with them, after the second night. And then it was like, yeah, my son is in this training program, at Booker T's, and we met Vicky Guerrero, and that was a pretty big summer for us, because we went all over the country. And we came back. We would go out to a place and come back, and then go back out and come back. And then once we did the big loop, and then the uncontrollable diarrhea episode.
It was not.
Yeah. So coming back from Brazzers, and
That's why I'm doing something else. I think I already have some stuff.
don't want to get cleaned out like the whole night. I mean,
And plus, I've been living more healthy.
yeah, we have. When we're able
With
to
the
eat.
fewer sections going out to
Yeah. We're usually we're down to like the protein shakes now, but we have a church friend that's gonna drop
yeah,
off. some-
peanut butter and bread. That will totally last us.
Yeah, that's but yeah, with Bray Wyatt, man, he just had it knocked out of the park. And I don't even think he thought it would be that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, Vince, I could do this, you know. He's probably saying that. And then all of a sudden, it just blossoms into this huge, big, like, character. And it was, you know, it was like The Hills Have Eyes meet Deliverance in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you met the real character, or the real person, I was like, this can't be the same dude.
Right. I've
You know?
seen that before.
Right. And like when people first, they would say they first met Mick Foley, and people were thinking, oh, this guy's like real Captain Creepo or something. And then he's the most harmless ball of peach fuzz on the planet.
Yeah.
You know. And then like you have the exact opposite. I mean, you have people like Hacksaw Jim Duggan from like the old school era, and you have to bribe people to say something bad about him because he was that nice of a dude, and you know, just a generally likable dude. And one of our friends, don't say their name, Edmond, but was on the Jerichoholics cruise. She was the sound engineer for the Jerichoholics cruise, and Jim Duggan came in and beat up one of the bad guys with the 2x4 and everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I don't
And-
remember seeing that.
And so, I mean, you see some characters that kind of get full of themselves or kind of let the character take over, and then you see people like MJF,
Yeah.
which, like, dude, he looks like a real douchebag, like you know, like that one guy one of the fans threw like a 40 at him,
That was.
and
Yeah.
And,
Not happy on that.
and then he's always in character. I mean, he's like one of the best actors since Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, he can play that character. His MJF can play, Maxwell Jacob Friedman can play his character just to the T, right? And then you see people like Bray Wyatt who just put their heart and soul into this character that they've had, and whether you like the villains or not, they were just cool as hell. And then I think that's when Alexa started doing the Harlequin character. Yeah, and so, you know, like, I know some people said, oh, well, Bray Wyatt's character, you know, back, you know, just a couple of years back, you know, would get stale or something, or it was the same squash match or something like that until they got to like a build-up of a main event, maybe on a pay-per-view or something. But still, I mean, he had the fans going. He had the crowd going. I mean, there was a big pop when Bray's music would kick in. I think we saw him at SmackDown in Dayton, and that place lit up like a Christmas tree. I mean, that whole place just went off the hook. And then right after that, The Undertaker came out, you know, for a promo. And
that was really.
and it was like, man, you know, the guys next to us was like, dude, this is the first time I ever seen The Undertaker, but man, Bray Wyatt came out here and just blew the whole place off. And, you know, and it takes balls to go out there and do that and play a villain. And then when you have that personal connection with the crowd, right? Because it's not even about doing the, like, even as a, probably, like, even the Stardom girls, right? The nice Japanese girls and stuff. They, it's not really about the kamikaze moves and the, you know, and all the flips and somersaults and Stardom. They get a little more colorful.
Not that much.
I mean, usually a Grand Prix will have a basketball scored for, like, where the girls accidentally face plow into the other girl's crotch or something like
I
that.
don't think that would.
But and then, like, you know, the characters just having that nice personal connection with the crowd. It's not about the moves and all that other stuff. It's about how the fans can pop, you know, with the characters, you know. And you know, I contribute. You know, I won't mention his name, but my esteemed colleague in Bremen, Germany. It's, you know, he understands this just as much as I did. It was like, and when we were working on an album, he was like, Chris, we need this to pop. And I'm like, yeah, man, I got it. You know, and he's like, no, like, it needs to pop with the crowd, like in wrestling. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, oh, okay, I got you. And so I'm like, well, what if we did the bass track or the opening, like the opening chords, like, you know, like if you listen to the band that I helped, that, you know, I'm part of, and you hit 1, 2, 3, 4, you can play the whole album, right? But if we change up the 1, 2, 3, 4 to sound like a certain, almost like personal reaction to it, like, you know what track that's going to be, and the whole place just pops, it goes off the fucking hook. You're going to have the crowd like glued to you, whether you're a villain or a bad guy, or you're just some crazy black metal guy up on stage playing electro, and you got the corpse paint and the stage blood going on, and your aunt thinks you're like some Satanist from the Satanic Panic and all that other bullshit, you know. And one of my friends in Greece said, hey, if your aunt thinks you're a Satanist, take it as a compliment, right? And I think that you know, Bray Wyatt took it as a compliment when everyone was like, yeah, maybe the guy is this crazy dude or something like that, so what? And he had that way of talking to the crowd, which was like this really psychotic, like self-help guru, right? And we've had our share of self-help people that have been a little bit outside of left field in real life. And one of the churches my wife attended was like this giant, like the core council was this like blackmail ring. And the same thing as like almost like my wife's family. It was like, hey, you're gonna know where your place is and obey, consume, and comply like we tell you to. And then if you didn't do that, you were like the villain, right? You know, it's just their way of gaslighting you. But then you got people like Bray Wyatt who are like, hey, if you want to call me the villain, go ahead. I know my role, right? And there are people like Bray Wyatt that have inspired so many people, like kids growing up saying, hey, you know, I may not be like Bray Wyatt, but I'm going to go out and do this, you know, whether it's a different sports type of thing, or an actor in Hollywood, or making anime characters or comics or something like that of their own. And they're like, where'd you get inspired? I got inspired by watching Bray Wyatt. You know, me personally, I got inspired by Goldberg and Roman Reigns. And you know, we just wanted to come on here and, you know, just put our 2 1/8 cents that we have into it, you know. And we were just talking to a friend in Florida before we got in here, and they were like, man, this is just kicking my ass. And I was like, I know, right? It's kicking the balls. And I was on a live cast with a Hollywood person. The when the news broke of Bray Wyatt, and so it was just like, wow. Because Edmond, you had that look on your face, and it was like, man, what the hell did I say? And then I found out. I was like, I went to send something to Mark Murrow on Instagram, and I'm like, oh crap. And then that's when I found out what was going on. We were going to do this outside, but all the bugs and the creatures and stuff, were eating us alive. So we came in to our Wi-Fi station. So I know there's more people that can say a lot more eloquent stuff about Bray, but we thought we'd just put our own vibe into it, and we appreciate you guys taking the time. And if you can, it's not for me, it's for my son. If you can hit the buy a coffee link, if that's applicable to you,
that would really help me a lot.
Yeah, and so we got one bill partially paid on Tuesday, and then we're just trying to, when you're a retired forensic scientist, you get told you're overqualified when everyone's hiring under the sun, and then Edmond, your hours got cut.
Yeah.
Like during the week, and the workplace that you're at right now is not very applicable. And don't say where you have the interview. He has an interview with another place just across the street.
I just got the word on it today.
They're much nicer there.
Yeah, well, some of them are. Some people are. I mean,
there's a few people.
They hired some new people there, so you never know what.
Right. So, but with that, we'll let you guys go. Thanks for listening in, and if you can remember the buy me a coffee link below. So, thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.